Marcus is in a small meeting room. 3 chairs, a table. He's on one side. 2 investors are on the other. He requested this meeting 6 months ago. He prepared his pitch. He rehearsed his answers. He believes in the product. He believes in the numbers. 42 minutes later, he walks out the door with a polite no and a maybe that every entrepreneur quickly learns to translate as no. He didn't fail because the product was bad. He didn't fail because the investors didn't understand. He failed because he arrived at that meeting with a problem that had started 2 years earlier. And 2 years earlier, he didn't know he had this problem because it hadn't surfaced yet. It surfaced exactly here. At the moment it mattered. A timeline is drawn on the whiteboard. A point at the beginning is marked as an invisible decision. Another point 2 years ahead is marked as a visible consequence. Between the two, no warning signs. In most videos about entrepreneurial failure, talk about the wrong product, the wrong market, the wrong timing. These things exist. But there's a category of failure that's more common, more silent, and more devastating than any of them. It's the failure that happens not because the entrepreneur made a big, obvious mistake. It's the failure that happens because they didn't know at what specific point in the journey they were most vulnerable. And vulnerability that you don't know about doesn't generate caution. It generates acceleration in the wrong direction. My name is Jack, and I spend a lot of time thinking about why entrepreneurs who do everything right for years fail at specific recurring windows of opportunity that are no coincidence. If you've ever felt like your business was growing and suddenly stopped for no obvious reason, subscribe to the channel because this video is exactly about that. Before we begin, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. And I'm not here to tell you that you're going to fail. I'm here to show you where most people fail so you can see the hole before you get into it. A road appears on the whiteboard. Long, straight for the most part. But with 7 specific points where the road has an abrupt deviation. Not a visible precipice. A deviation that looks like a road, but isn't. Marcus is driving, confident. The speed increases with each kilometer. The first point of failure isn't at the beginning, it's right after the beginning. 6 to 18 months of operation. Initial revenue validated. First customers paying. The feeling is one of confirmed proof of concept. And that feeling is the trigger for the first point of failure. A character appears on the whiteboard holding a small trophy. Above his head, an arrow pointing upwards. Below his feet, a surface that looks solid but is on water. The problem here has a specific name: premature scaling. The entrepreneur validates that some people are buying and interprets this as a sign that many people will buy. They hire before revenue can support the hiring. They rent more space before demand justifies it. They invest in marketing before understanding why the first customers bought. Each decision in isolation seems reasonable. However, the combination of these decisions burns through cash at a rate that revenue growth cannot keep up with. CB Insights analyzed the reasons for startup failures in the United States over more than a decade and identified that running out of cash is the second most common cause of closure, present in 29% of cases. The relevant data is not the percentage. It's when it happens. Most cases of zero cash flow don't occur in the first year when everyone is cautious. They occur between the 12th and 24th month, when the initial validation has created enough confidence to scale prematurely. The solution is a non-negotiable minimum cash flow rule. No hiring or expansion decisions should be made until operating cash flow covers at least 6 months of fixed expenses with the new structure already included. Not 4 months, not 3, 6. The second point of failure is what brings down more businesses that came close to success than any other factor. 18 to 36 months into operation. The business is running, consistent revenue, small but committed team. The entrepreneur is at the center of everything and begins to realize that he needs to delegate. He hires an initial middle management team, operations manager, sales director, head of product. And then something happens that he didn't expect. Things get worse before they get better. Not a little worse, significantly worse. Sarah shows up. She hired an operations manager after 2 years of doing everything herself. She paid well. The person had a resume. They had experience. In the first 8 weeks, customers complained more than ever. Processes that worked when Sarah was in charge stopped working when someone else took over. The team became confused about who reported to whom. Sarah started micromanaging the person she hired to free herself from micromanaging. The second point of failure is called the delegation valley. It's real, it has a name in management literature, and it brings down businesses not because the hiring was wrong, but because the entrepreneur didn't know the valley existed and interpreted the temporary downturn as evidence that delegation doesn't work. They go back to centralizing. The hired person leaves in 90 days. The business returns to the same bottleneck as before, with more costs and less confidence. This cycle can repeat 2, 3, 4 times. Each cycle is more expensive and more exhausting than the last. The solution isn't to hire better. It's to understand that the valley exists, that it will last between 60 and 90 days in most cases, and that navigating it with the right person on the other side is the only way for the business to exist without depending on the founder for every decision. The third point of failure is silent by nature. 2 to 4 years of operation. The business has grown, the team has grown, the processes are in place, and then the growth stops. It doesn't fall, it doesn't break, it just stops. Revenue remains stable for a quarter, then 2, then 3. The team continues working. The processes continue functioning. The numbers don't move. Marcus appears looking at a revenue graph. The line has been rising for 2 years. Now it's flat. He increases the marketing budget. The line doesn't move. He hires another salesperson. The line doesn't move. He changes the pricing strategy. The line fluctuates a little and returns to the same place. The problem here isn't the tactics he's testing, it's the diagnosis. The business has hit the natural ceiling of the market it's serving with its current product. Not because the product is bad, but because the initial segment was saturated, and expansion into the next segment requires a change in positioning, channel, or product that the entrepreneur isn't making, because he's busy trying to extract more from what he already has. 2 elements appear on the whiteboard. A small, completely filled circle representing the current market, a larger circle next to it representing the next market, and a wall between the two. The wall isn't insurmountable, but crossing it requires stopping pushing the small circle and starting to build the bridge to the large one. Most entrepreneurs at this point test tactics for months before accepting that the problem is strategic. Every month of tactics without a correct diagnosis is a month of cash burned in the wrong direction. The fourth point of failure is the only one directly caused by success. 4 to 6 years of operation. The business has grown beyond what the founder imagined when starting. Revenue exceeds $1 million per year. A team of 15, 20, 25 people. Processes that worked with 5 people begin to creak with 20. Communication that was natural begins to require structure. Decisions that previously reached the founder in real time now arrive filtered, delayed, processed. Sarah shows up at a meeting with the entire team. She's speaking. Everyone's in agreement. She leaves the meeting feeling like things are aligned. 3 weeks later, she discovers that the product team and the sales team made opposing decisions about the same client without anyone realizing there was a conflict. The fourth point of failure is called unmanaged organizational complexity. The business has grown faster than the communication and decision-making structure has been able to keep up. There is no longer a technical problem to solve. There is a problem of human coordination at scale. And human coordination at scale is a completely different skill from building a product, selling, and operating. It's a skill that most founders never developed because they never needed it before. A study by Bain & Company showed that companies that grow from 10 to 50 employees without intentionally adapting their communication and decision-making structure experience an average drop in productivity per employee of 36%. Not because people get worse, because the system in which they operate has become misaligned with the current size. The solution is to treat organizational structure like a product, with the same attention, the same iteration, and the same rigor that the founder applied to the product that brought them this far. The fifth point of failure is the most painful because it happens after everything seems to be resolved. 5 to 8 years of operation. The business is profitable, the team functions, the systems are in place, the founder finally has some breathing room, and it is precisely in this space that the threat grows unseen. A competitor appears drawn on the whiteboard. Small at first, with a product that seems inferior in every dimension relevant to Marcus's business. Cheaper, but with fewer features. Simpler, but lacking the depth that Marcus's customers value. Marcus sees the competitor. You decide not to worry. You continue improving the product you have for the customers you have. 18 months later, the competitor has twice as many new customers as Marcus. Not because they got better at what Marcus is good at, but because they were good enough for a segment Marcus ignored, and that segment was larger than it seemed. Disruption from below has a name in innovation literature, documented by Clayton Christensen in decades of research. The pattern repeats itself in industry after industry. The incumbent continues to improve for the customers they already have. The entrant serves customers the incumbent doesn't want or doesn't see. The entrant improves over time. By the time the incumbent perceives the real threat, the entrant already has the scale, distribution, and structural costs that make direct competition extremely difficult. The solution is to intentionally allocate a portion of attention and budget to monitoring what is being built at the base of the market, not just what direct competitors are doing at the same level. The sixth point of failure is the only one that starts outside the business. 6 to 10 years of operation. The founder is exhausted in a way that doesn't show up in any report. Revenue is good. The team functions. The numbers add up. But he's been operating with near zero emotional and cognitive reserve for longer than he can remember. A battery appears drawn on the whiteboard. Red indicator. Marcus next to it, still functioning, but with slower movements. Less precise. In this state, he makes a decision he wouldn't have made at any other time. Not an obviously wrong decision. A decision that seems reasonable but carries a risk that his rested self would have identified. A partnership with unfavorable terms that he didn't read carefully. A senior hire that seemed right, but whose warning signs he ignored because he lacked the energy to restart the process. A large client contract with clauses that will create problems in 18 months. Each of these decisions, in isolation, seems recoverable. The problem is that the entrepreneur at the sixth point of failure is making decisions with this level of reduced attention consistently for months. Matthew Walker's research on sleep deprivation and executive decision-making is straightforward. Significant cognitive decline begins with less than 7 hours of sleep consistently, with a specific impact on risk assessment and pattern recognition. Precisely the two most critical functions for an entrepreneur. The body maintains the appearance of functioning long after decision-making capacity has been compromised. And the person doesn't feel the difference because the reference point for how well they feel has long been forgotten. The solution isn't motivational, it's structural. Mandatory vacations scheduled in advance. Limits on working hours applied systematically, not by willpower. Because willpower is precisely the resource that runs out first. The seventh point of failure is the rarest and most definitive. 8 to 15 years of operation. The business has come a long way. The founder has built something real, and now there's a decision on the table that will define the entire next chapter. Sell, raise a large round of funding, go public, make an acquisition, expand internationally. A large door appears on the whiteboard. On this side, everything that has been built. On the other side, a long corridor with an uncertain outcome at the end. The failure at the seventh point isn't making the wrong decision. It's making the right decision for the wrong reason. Or the wrong decision for the right reason. Sarah appears, looking at the door. She's received an acquisition offer. The number is good. It's not the number she dreamed of, but it's real, and it's on the table now. She rejects it because she believes the business is worth more. She might be right. She might be letting the only strategic buyer who will appear in the next 5 years walk out the door because ego and identity are more present in the decision than analysis. Or she accepts because she's exhausted and the number solves the fatigue. And she sells a business that in 3 years would be worth double because the emotional cost of the moment clouded the long-term financial perspective. The seventh point of failure is called making a turning point decision in the wrong emotional state. And there is no technical tool that solves this. There is only one thing that helps. Never make a turning point decision in the state in which it has arrived. Always create deliberate distance between the arrival of the opportunity and the response. Weeks when possible. Months when necessary. Because the clarity that appears with distance is qualitatively different from the clarity that seems to exist in the heat of the moment. The road reappears on the whiteboard. The 7 detours are marked. Marcus is driving, this time more slowly. Looking to the sides. He won't avoid them all. Nobody avoids them all, but he'll avoid them too much because you know where they are. 2 entrepreneurs start from the same point. Same product, same market, same intelligence. One of them treats each point of failure as a surprise when it arrives. The other learns to recognize the pattern before being in it. 10 years later, they are in completely different places. Not because one was luckier, but because one knew what was coming, and the other was surprised by things that didn't need to be a surprise. Marcus stops in the hallway after the meeting. The no still echoes. He pulls a notebook from his pocket and writes something down. Not a new strategy, not a pivot, a question. Where am I really at? And what specifically from that point has put me in this room today unprepared? Asking the right question at the right time is worth more than any answer that comes too late. Knowing where you are is the first step. Knowing what's coming next is a different story. And it's difficult to have that conversation alone with just one video.